Legally Speaking with me, Tarun Nangia. Chief Justice of India, Justice N.V. Ramana, said these words for Justice Nageswara Rao at his farewell, that his departure would be a deep loss for the Supreme Court of India. And indeed, yes, Justice Nageswara Rao's tenure, in a sense, has been, in a sense, which give us so many judgments out of it. And also, I remember Justice Ramana also saying that he had a flourishing practice when he took up this responsibility of being on the bench. And indeed, we require lawyers with flourishing practice to look at this, in a sense, the bench as an option, because it is their contribution to the judicial and the legal system of the country. And for that is why we appreciate Justice Nageswara Rao's contribution. But we also go ahead and say that he's not going away. What is judiciary's loss will be the arbitration world's game. And we will get to see him on the arbitration circuit right after his retirement. So we will benefit from his experience. And that is what we look forward to. And secondly, we also delve into the other characteristics of Justice Nageswara Rao as a person. He was a Ranji Trophy player, which not many of us knew. I did not know. He was an actor. He acted in a movie long ago, which Senior Advocate Parag Tripathi shared with me, which I did not know. So, I mean, there are other characteristics to his personality, which we will also speak about today on the show. But let me introduce my panel today on Legally Speaking with Tarun Nangia. I have with me Ruby Singh Ahuja. She's senior partner with Karanjawala and Company. Good to see you, Ruby, once again. I have with me Senior Advocate Parag Tripathi. We know he's a top counsel at the Supreme Court of India, and looking forward to many anecdotes from him today on Justice Nageswara Rao, who he has had the opportunity to appear before on many occasions. I have with me Mohit Saraf, managing partner of Saraf and Partners, one of India's leading law firms, and somebody who briefs top counsels who go to the court and appear before many judges there. And Mohit will bring his own value add to this show. I have with me Advocate Rohan Shah, who practices at the Supreme Court of India and also the Bombay High Court, and looking forward to his interventions today on the show. Good to see you all. And let me begin. First, Senior Advocate Parag Tripathi, I want to request you that in the next 2 to 3 minutes, if you could lay the ground, and then we move on for the opening comments. Over to you, Mr. Parag Tripathi.
We have all known Justice Nageswara Rao, both from the bar and from the bench. Needless to say, he has had a multifaceted personality. He has acted, and I dare say acted quite well if the clips which are viral are any evidence of it. He was a Ranji Trophy player, and he is a man of great simplicity. Coupled with his great erudition, that makes a very, very formidable combination. One of my friends, Gopal Shankar Narayan, has written an article in Bar and Bench about him. And there's a very interesting anecdote. In the cricket match between the judges and lawyers, Justice Nageswara Rao was bowling, and he put his mid-off at a slightly different position by 3 feet. The mid-off was none else than Justice Ravindra Bhatt. And that top batsman spooned up the next ball into the hands, waiting hands of Justice Bhatt. As a result, somewhat unintentionally, Justice Bhatt got the best fielder award because it got caught out the best batsman. So this is one part of his stratagem and planning, which goes very long way as a lawyer. In addition to cricket, he also has great simplicity as a human being. I had the privilege of knowing him at the bar, and he had this affection, if I may use the expression, for Hawaii chappals. So unlike most of us Delhi-walas who are greatly impressed with our own shoes and our footwear, he was more interested on his cerebral exploits, which is a great thing. And then he chucked it all and decided to jump into the legal profession. There is a beautiful couplet of a poet with an unlikely name, Mast Kalkattavi. And he says, Mita de apni hasti ko agar koi martaba chahe. If you want to excel, you have to destroy your existence. Mita de apni hasti ko agar koi martaba chahe ki dana khak mein milkar gule gulzar hota hai. The seed has to destroy itself to become the big tree. So he destroyed his profession as a cricketer, as an actor, and then rose, of course, to a towering legal stature, person of legal stature. And in the next round, if you want, I will say what were his leading judgments, because I think I have done my 2 minutes, whatever you say.
Thank you so much for this opening comment. And I always like that you pepper your comments with a bit of shairi, which brings in that touch of lightness to every conversation that I get to have with you. Delhi is done. I'll go to Bombay. Advocate Rohan Shaw joins us from there. Mr. Shah, your opening comment.
Firstly, I think, Justice Nageswara Rao was really a person blessed with many outstanding abilities, both in life and law. And as Parag Tripathi mentioned, lots of skills of a very high order outside of the courts, whether it be cricket or whether it be his role as a thespian. But in the courts, I think what always stood out, whether it was during the tenure of his practice and very successful practice as a counsel or the time that he spent on the bench, were two things for me which always marked him out. One was a complete lack of any belief that he was different or superior in any form or manner to any of his colleagues, no matter how junior they were. All inputs were welcome, listened to very carefully. And from that perspective, I think the comfort he created while people dealt with him was unparalleled. The other thing is, it was always a pleasure to see how he treated juniors in his court. There was always encouragement to argue. In fact, it was sometimes even conveyed that don't be afraid. No order will be passed against you. You argue. If it is for you, we will rule. Otherwise, we'll give another opportunity, which I think is a sign of someone who truly values life and learning. And it was always a pleasure, therefore, to sort of be in his court. And the other is, of course, as we look at the multitude of the many judgments that he had in his tenure, he, in a way, affected everything from constitutional law to delivery of justice through his, rulings on the tribunal system and criminal proceeding system. And, several issues which touched upon really the social ethos of this country. And I think, one of the judgments, just in passing, because every judge is defined by his judgments, but there is this case of Narendra versus Meena, which is, I think, Justice Dave and him, where he says that, it's the pious duty of a Hindu son to look after his parents in their old age, especially when they have no other means or income which flows to them. And I think besides his deep understanding of the law, his empathy on social issues really, to me, encircle a personality which is a personality that you would want to look up to, not only as a judge, but also as a professional and as a person. So I think for me, he just leaves an indelible mark of many, many good things and many, many good feelings.
Thank you so much for that comment. In our next round of questions, we will discuss his judgments in a bit more detail. Ruby Ahuja, Senior Partner, Karanjawala and Company, your opening comment.
Thanks, Tarun. Yes, as everyone has said, a man of multifaceted personality, lot of diverse interest, and very cool and calm. I will say, and I would want to use a phrase for him, man with no air. I have been fortunate enough to work with him when he was at this side of the bar. And I'll tell you the incident because Rohan just said that he treated everybody equally. And let me tell you, we were in Simla for an excise matter. I had asked him to come with us. And there was a team of 5 people. All of us were juniors and he was a senior counsel with us. And the High Court was on strike. The matter got adjourned to next day. And as always happens, you do more conferences, you come up with more case law. And he said, you need this case law tomorrow for court. Now, the small shop which we had there was no electricity. And after the conference, we all went away. We went to the Mall Road to find a photocopy shop. So all 5 of us stood there trying to get those photocopies. And suddenly after 1 or 2 hours, I get a call from sir that, where are you? I said, sir, I am getting photocopies. And he says, okay. After 20 minutes, I turn back because Mall Road, everybody knows in Simla. And the man is standing there. I said, sir, why are you here? I mean, can I help you? Or, you feel little this thing, why does the senior has to come all the way? He says, you all were here. I was getting bored. So I said, okay, I'll go and stand with, and I'll also help you in this. This doesn't happen often, that much I can tell you. You have to be very careful when you're traveling with senior counsel. So the man with no air, and as Parag said, that his Hawaii chappal. This profession, we all love our pens. Pens and expensive, fancy pens are hallmark. If you don't have them, maybe your success is doubted at point. But he was always sitting with a pencil. Whenever I have briefed him, the man had a pencil. So I think there's a lot to say about him. I mean, it's very remarkable that he took this decision to go that side of the bar and to be at the bench. He had a roaring practice and was actually very, very, admired, and people are very fond of him also at the bar. So he's very calm. That's what I like. And of course, his diverse personality from acting to, and very fit. I remember when he used to give us conferences after his evening walk, and then they never used to see the watch. You can sit there till 10:30, and your conference will go on, and very hardworking. So I think it's a big lacuna, but I'm happy that he's now at this side of the bar. We'll probably work with him a little more.
Thank you, Ma'am Ruby Ahuja, for sharing that anecdote. We like anecdotes on Legally Speaking. It provides an insight into the person. And I would really appreciate more anecdotes. It makes the conversation meaningful, richer. People like to watch. I'm going to Mohit Saraf, Managing Partner of Saraf and Partners, for his opening comment.
I think if you look at most successful lawyers and judges, they actually are very boring personality. I would say, if you think about it, because and one basic thing they say, and I think including myself, that we we have no time. But a person of his caliber, and if you see, he started as a district lawyer in Guntur. From there, he moved to a senior advocate, and with a roaring practice, as what Parag has mentioned. I think from there to become an additional Solicitor General and then to be the judge, I would say it's a remarkable journey. And also, I think what Parag said, that the level of strategy and cricket feel, what he did in that famous match, that also shows that in spite of him being on the bench for a long time, he's never forgotten his passion. Probably we'll get to know once we get a little bit more about his personal life once he did the bench. But I would say absolutely, I think he's a really very successful lawyer, extremely successful judge, particularly because he consistently followed certain themes, whether it's in constitutional law, whether it's on reservation. He consistently, and he had a consistent way of looking things, I would say. And it was always that everything you can do, but you can't do without serious basis. I think particularly, on the right of privacy, what he did on COVID vaccine, I would say he's absolutely remarkable. That respect, as Mr. Tripathi said, the respect he gave it to elders, that part, privacy, like we all remember that people could not even go to Australian Open because of not being vaccinated. And he was a judge in a country where everybody thought that they're going to be a serious problem if people don't take COVID vaccine. But he said, no, everybody should have a right of privacy. And he also put an onus on the government to make sure that they publicize the ill effects of vaccine. So I would say a person will be deeply missed, but you are absolutely right that his focus on arbitration, his focus on enforceability of contract, I would say go a long way, because I think there's a lot of work which is required to make sure that everybody who goes for arbitration never regrets. And that, I think, his whole focus of enforceability of arbitration awards and judicial intervention should come down, and even the commercial courts should get specialized judge. all these things are to make sure that our enforceability of contract and enforceability of regulations becomes far better, so that the ease of doing business improves in this country. So I would say very, very interesting. I would say a big a jump to the arbitration center in Hyderabad.
Thanks for that, sharing that input. And of course, you said lawyers hardly get time to have other pursuits, which is indeed true. Not many can keep up with the kind of life that lawyers have. I'll go to Senior Advocate Parag Tripathi, who actually finds time for some of his passions, though within his limited time he finds. But your comment on the judgments given by Justice Nageswara Rao. This has to be a lengthy answer. We'll start with you and we'll continue in the part 2 also. But please, if you could share your views.
Yeah, Justice Rao, I think, has left an indelible mark in the judicial firmament in terms of this legacy of his judgments. At one level are his judgment in the field of personal liberty, whether it is that Perari Varnan's case where he laid down the law on the scope of the power with the governor when there is a communication by the state cabinet on remission. Then Indrani Mukherjee, which was a case of bail, and Azam Khan, which was another case of bail. So he brought that refreshing, exhilarating thinking of primacy of freedoms, which sometimes we lose sight of because we get carried away by the facts of the case. The facts of the case should never come in the way of the law, because we follow, it's not merely for the sake of it that we say a person is innocent till proved guilty, but that's the way the legal system works. And once he is guilty, then of course he has to face the music in full. So his trilogy of judgments, which have come recently, I think are a great blow for personal liberty in our country, whereas a matter of course bail is denied. That's of course a much bigger issue. But it's very sad that as a matter of course at initial levels, bail is denied. One distinguished retired Chief Justice once confided in us, a group of then young lawyers, to say that it comes from 2 reasons. One, the judges, particularly in the district courts, feel that, in the sessions court, feel that this man has obviously done it and he will obviously go scot-free. So let me put him in jail during trial as long as I can keep it. Now that's not healthy for the system. And the second is, if you give bail, particularly at the sessions level, eyebrows are raised if the person is important. Now, these are all extraneous considerations and hit at the fundamentals of law. And I think his trilogy of judgments here go a long way to set it right, or at least move in the right direction. Then, of course, his very strong views on the primacy of judicial function and therefore judicial independence. In his tribunal reforms and tribunal judgments, Madras Bar, etc., where he laid down that you have to have a system where appointments in tribunals are done in a manner that you get independent persons and not persons who are dependent on the executive. It doesn't matter who the executive is. The point is a principle. And I think that is also an extraordinary, it's a very important judgment in the legal firmament. And the third is in commercial areas where unfortunately I and a distinguished friend of mine who now adorns the bench were on the receiving end of the judgment, which is the DMRC judgment, where under Section 34, the parameters of interference were laid down to lay down the law that once there is an award, then short of something extremely extraordinary, that award will stand. Whether it is right or wrong is irrelevant. So I think he has that boldness. He has struck big blows in various areas, which will remain the guiding beacon for quite a long time to come. And of course, Rohan gave that excellent example of the rights of a son. So that shows a sensitive mind and a heart as well.
Thank you so much, Senior Advocate Parag Tripathi, for sharing those judgments on your views about them. But that's it for part 1. In part 2, the rest of the panelists will also share their views on the judgments given by Justice Nageswara Rao.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.